They say in Alabama, up north in them hills, near the town of Gadsden, well, you'll see the ills of a land filled with hypocrisy and hate. For there is a place that they'll take you from your home. They'll strip you of your family, they'll leave you all alone. And if you don't look like one of us, you'll make it out alive. You can hear it in their screams, you can see it in their eyes. Mothers wail in pain as a little child cries. So people outside all shout, shut etowah down.
It was like my first week, a family came in. I got to help that family connect with their loved one. That's kind of what solidified for me that I was in the right place and that I was doing meaningful work. Right now, we've been given the framework to think about family separation as a family crosses the border and then children, moms and dads are separated. In my day-to-day work, I'm seeing family separation that looks different. It looks like being unable to see your daughter for a year, going to an ICE check-in and being picked up there when you're doing everything you're supposed to, and then you're being ripped away from your wife or your partner.
Ayer a mí me tocaba cita con mi niña en el pediatra y por esa razón yo no fui a trabajar. Y como a las 7 me hablan por teléfono y me dicen hay redadas aquí en Sandusky y en Castalia. Y luego de rato me hablan y me dicen ya tienen a tu hermana, a tu esposo. Si a mí me hubieran llevado a mi esposo también, a mi hermana, ¿con quién yo dejo a mis hijos? Mis hijos no hubieran tenido con quién irse.
The people there look different than what we think of when we think of immigration. Such a huge, significant number of people who are in immigrant detention at Etowah are from African countries, from South Asian countries, from East Asian countries, and then some from South America and Central America. A lot of people who have been transferred there from other detention centers say that Etowah is definitely the worst place that they've been in. It's also kind of in the middle of nowhere.
So it plays this really specific role in the national detention system, and a really pernicious role of somewhere where people are sent to kind of break them, lose hope, and to be warehoused and made as invisible as possible, and be detained often for months or years on end.
It's not people here in Alabama. It's just a tactic that ICE uses to separate people, to make it difficult for them to communicate with their legal counsel, to make it difficult for people to communicate with their families. And ICE does this thing where they will take you to your limits, and right before you die, they let you go. They do it so they don't have to track and keep record that happened under their custody. One of the saddest examples of this was where Teka Gulema, he was in detention in Etowah years ago, and he was released right before his death.
Another huge issue in Etowah, especially when you're looking at folks who are getting detained for 6 months, a year, multiple years, is that there's no access to the outdoors. That's something that just, I think every human being understands the importance of being able to breathe fresh air and feel the sun on our face. And then medical and mental health care is abysmal at Etowah. Again, if our government's going to be detaining people, they need to be at the very least caring for their basic health and well-being.
There's this law in Alabama around the Great Depression era. Sheriffs were allowed to pocket any excess money that they received from the government to feed people in their jails.
Last September, Entrican and his wife bought this $740,000 beach house along Alabama's Gulf Coast.
So what happened was Entrican, who is the former sheriff of Etowah County, he would cut corners, he would accept donations for food, oftentimes spoiled food, and serve that.
This is a jail. This is not a bed and breakfast. If you're used to eating grandma's fried chicken, ordering pizza several times a week, you're not going to be happy. Well, this is just like anybody that gets out here and works every day, and at the end of the day, if you make a profit, it's yours.
We are figuring out a plan and a path forward to speak with this new sheriff, Sheriff Horton, who is now in place there in Etowah County. Right now, we're not allowed to visit people in Unit 9. Unit 9 is also where the hunger strike began, the one in January. When hunger strikes happen, people are separated, they're isolated, they're force-fed, there are threats of violence. And I don't think that would be a good look for the sheriff who just came into town.
So I'm wondering what your plan is to, during your administration, bring the facility to better compliance with more updated standards for how ICE detention is supposed to be run. Thank you very much.
Again, I tread dangerously in answering these questions about ICE because I'm prohibited from it. I can say that there are some detention standards that would make us more updated. I believe it's the 2012. And there are some geographical restrictions that prohibit us based on where we are. We are considering, I can say, or I have, and we are as a organization, to try to be at the highest standard and the most updated standard that we can be at, because that's most beneficial to both the inmates and the organization if we're going to be in the business of detaining.
I think folks from around the country, especially people who are working in other detention centers, see how people are transferred away from the states and the cities where they're from to Etowah when ICE is planning to warehouse them for the long time.
We do visits and we write letters. That's just how we communicate. Visits, it's a little bit of a trek to go up there to visit people for 20 minutes. So there's been a variety of actions. There have been some involving like bands and music right there in order to provide music for the people who are in detention. Years ago, there was one where folks like chained themselves to right there to the sheriff's department, which is housed right underneath the detention center. In November, we got someone out right ahead of Thanksgiving, which was really exciting. We raised $5,500 for their bond and to get them home.
So the Etowah Habeas Project was launched by Adelante. If the government's going to detain someone, to take someone's liberty away for so long, it needs to be a decision that's specific to that person's case, and that a finding basically that there's no other condition like paying a cash bond or even having, being subject to supervision that could ensure that that person shows up for their deportation case, which is the whole point of detention. So that was the idea of launching this project and filing legal claims in the federal district court here in Birmingham, trying to get the courts to look at just how illegal this detention is, and especially as it grows longer and longer, and there's not even an opportunity to have a bond hearing or have it reviewed, and that's part of the issue we're challenging too.
We say shut down Etowah. Most of the time when we talk about it, we think of ending that contract between the Etowah County Commission and the Department of Homeland Security that allows them to cage people in immigrant detention. But if we win that, our work isn't done. The line to lawful status is 10, 15, 20 years long. We already hear a lot of the stories of the pain of the people that we're serving, and we don't think a lot about the joy and really the driving force behind why they're here in the first place. They're all seeking a better opportunity.
You can hear it in their screams, you can see it in their eyes. Mothers wail in pain as a little child cries, as the people outside all shout, shut Etowah down. Shut Etowah down. Shut Etowah down. Shut Etowah down.